All right. Well, everyone stop their conversations. So I always start by welcoming everyone to our meetup. We really appreciate you guys attending. Our goal here is always to connect with other people to figure out our most important next step here in real estate and in life. And I always start every meeting with gratitude and praise. So I'm just super grateful that all of you guys could make it out here today, Saturday morning in the summer. So we know everyone here is actually committed to doing what they're doing. And I couldn't appreciate you guys more for coming, just because without you guys, then I'd be up here with Joe by myself, which would be fun, but not as good as it is with everyone here. The other thing I ask every time is we started asking for donations through Eventbrite for the Boys and Girls Club of True Value. So if you didn't sign up on Eventbrite and are willing to, we always ask for a $10 donation for attending. All that goes directly to the club for their Youth of the Year program, which gives one of the kids a scholarship. And I've been on the board there starting for this year, and it's been really good. So if you haven't signed on to Eventbrite, or give me $10 and I'll do it for you. Then I always like to ask an important question while we get going. And I'm always wondering, who here has a job that they'd like to quit to get into real estate more full time? All right. Who thinks they might be able to quit in the next year? All right. What's your job? What's your name? And how are you going to quit?
My name is Joe Mueller. My job, I'm an electrical apprentice. And how I'm gonna quit is investing more time into properties that I could invest into for development, rehab, and just put more time into that, but also being in networks and communities like this to be around more people who are educated and seasoned than me, and just work with them to help along with my journey.
Man, sounds like you're saying all of the right things. Find people who are doing what you want to do and surround yourself with them. Jamal Smith. And I got you a book to help you quit your job. It's called The Quitter's Manifesto. It was written by some of my fellow GoBundance members. But yeah, it's a really good book. And I love that you have a timeline, and anything I can do to help you hit that timeline, let me know. And I'm here to help, my friend. And then, yeah, I mean, in line with that, I always say there's 3 steps that make you successful in anything you do, whether it's real estate or being an electrical apprentice or, whatever it is that you want to do. And it's simply almost exactly what Jamal just said, is educate, learn, and read. There's nothing that's changed my life more than reading. So I devour books like this every day, 2 books a month typically. And networking, which is also coming out here. Getting on Bigger Pockets and Facebook is great. Coming out to these events, I don't think there's something more important than reading than coming to stuff like this, because you meet people who you become friends with forever and who end up changing your life, just like Joe did for me. So that's number 2. And number 1 is take action and be decisive. I think too often, I know myself getting going. I like to think I moved quickly, but I still think I could have moved quicker. And so the quicker we make decisions while talking to people who've done it before is usually the best thing. I was really good at not working with people who've done it before and trying things on my own. And so be decisive and take action. And I always think the easiest way to make the best informed decisions is using data. And that's why I have Jason Wagner come every month to talk about the Chicago market and all the data analytics he puts together. So give a hand for Jason.
Glad to be here again this month. I actually formed a business in the in 27. So we'll see how we do next month. This is the Wagner report. On a monthly basis, I do a pretty comprehensive report of the overall Chicago market. We break down all 77 neighborhoods by single-family homes. I give you the price trends, the months of supply, and all kinds of really awesome data that you can help, look at and study and make some really good decisions with. So this is the report. And just an FYI, I'm an investor myself. I'm actually the managing broker and owner of Greystone Realty. I've got 13 units. Every one of my agents that's at my brokerage has to be an investor themselves. I actually make that a requirement. I just always found that the best agents are the ones that are actually out there doing it themselves. But let's talk about the numbers for May. So last month, if you were here, I finally started to say, hey, we're actually starting to see a trend in downward pricing. And so now the trend is forming. So we do have prices in Chicago going down. We're down 2.3% from last year. This is the top line. Median sales prices are at 335. This is probably going to continue with a downward trend in pricing. We are starting to see this jump down to the months of supply line. This is how much inventory is out in the market. We're at 3.7 months. But the thing to know about this is that it's trending upward. So really saying that we do have low inventory, but the amount of buyers that we have compared to that inventory, the buyers are still retreating. Okay, so we still have like a big pullback in buyers in certain areas. So I do expect that prices are going to continue to trend downward as we continue to move through the year. So with that said, average market times are up. So we're starting to see that climb a little bit higher at the 71 days. Under contract activity, this is how many buyers are in the marketplace. We're down 13% year to date and down 27% from where we were last year. So last year, we still had lower rates at this point. And then new listings. So a lot of people aren't really talking about this as much. We probably start to hear it a little bit more, but there's not a lot of sellers that are selling right now because they've locked in lower rates. So there's not really motivation for them to sell. So we see that down as well. So that does not add to our inventory levels at all. If we flip over to the multifamily side, here's like the good news, right? So landlords in the room, rents have finally crossed $1,700 here in the city. So that's up 3.7% and up almost 2% year to date. So rents are continuing to go higher, which is amazing. Vacancy rates are actually near some lows, and we actually start to see some leveling with that. So at 5.3%, historically, vacancy in Chicago has been like between 6 and 7. So this is a lower number. A lower number means more demand for rental housing. And so that's great to see. Cap rates, we're starting to see cap rates actually rise. We've actually been kind of like prior to this, we were kind of leveling off and we hadn't seen any movement, but we actually are seeing cap rates rise. Obviously, with higher financing, that makes it harder for deals to pencil out. And so we are seeing multifamily price per unit has fallen about 4%, right? So interesting stuff that's happening. Let's point out what's going on with the 30-year mortgage. We're at 6.77 on the left-hand side here. This is a 30-year fixed. And I compare this to inflation. Why? Because inflation drives this market and what's going on. So the most recent report came out at 4.1%. We know that the Fed wants to get down to 2%. And I kind of look at that target as like, that's the light at the end of the tunnel. So we are getting close. And so the Fed has paused rates this month, right? They did kind of say, well, we do plan to maybe potentially tighten a little bit more, but it seems like traders are kind of banking on they might be done. So that we might see some light at the end of the tunnel, in which when that happens, I think we're going to see a big change in the market with buyers that come back. So keep monitoring inflation. And we're talking about like buyers and their activity levels right now. So here's what I plotted: buyer activity on the left. This is a very interesting chart where we look at basically how we've kickstarted the year so far. So I plotted 3 different lines there. One is 2022, which is the blue line. That's the top one. The dotted line is like what would be a normal market outside of the COVID boom era, right? So, and then the orange line is kind of how we've kickstarted. So if we look at the buyer activity, first 3 months, we were really trending more towards a normal market. And then April kind of sucked. But then buyers came back in May. And so we were only down about 3% compared to where we were in a normal month. So that's actually encouraging, in my opinion. And then when we look at the new listings, just not even close, right? So that's the problem. We don't have new listings coming to the marketplace. That's not going to add to inventory problems. So actually, if you look at, well, if we got decent buyers, but we don't have new listings coming to the marketplace, so more demand, less supply, prices, eventually, right? That's what we're hoping. So anyways, in the report, I do a very comprehensive analysis of like, I rank every single neighborhood based off of the top performers. This is the top 5 on the north side, looking at condos, single family homes, and 2 to 4 units. So these are the areas that are appreciating the most. So we still have, obviously Chicago is neighborhood by neighborhood, property type by property type, but these are the high performers that we see: Lakeview, Avondale, near West Side, North Lawndale, near North, single family homes. Those are good areas to be in. 2 to 4 units, Uptown, Lincoln Park, North Park, Hermosa, Avondale. Those are all really good areas to be in. We flip to the south side here, Bridgeport, Kenwood, Pullman, West Englewood, McKinley Park. Those are single family homes, double-digit gainers on appreciation rates. 2 to 4 units, Washington Park, East Side, Roseland, South Chicago, West Pullman. If you guys want to see this entire list that I have, you got to sign up for the report. It's very comprehensive. Just scan that real quick, and you'll get this on a monthly basis. I do it for free, just to give you information. So, does anybody have any questions about what we saw?
Actually, just so you know, we did last night.
Oh, awesome.
Didn't get a chance to digest it, but do you have comparisons of average rental income to property value?
So average rental income compared to, you said,
Property value.
property value. Oh yeah, that. Yeah. So we kind of call that the 1% rule. Kind of like, if you're looking at a deal and you're like, oh, how much can I get in rent compared to what the price is? So I did that whole analysis for all 77 neighborhoods. And yeah, so I've got that whole rule in there where I've taken the average rents. I assume that there's at least 3 units, and we're just doing it for 2 to 4 units. And yeah, so I put a rent to price ratio on that neighborhood report. So obviously the closer you are to 1% or greater, the better cash flow that you'll likely get. So yeah, so that's on there for all 77 neighborhoods, man. It's awesome. Anybody else got any questions? Cool. Oh, yeah.
You showed on there, especially for those like neighborhoods in the south side,
Mhm.
they seem like really rapid appreciation in
Mhm.
the last like 2 years.
Mhm.
Is that in your view? I don't know if this is a relevant question, but is that in your view something that is like, sustainable, especially since income in those neighborhoods isn't growing at the same rate?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. When I see big appreciation numbers like that, I like to dig in a little bit deeper, because if there's not enough sales, so my main criteria is that I at least need to have 24 sales in the neighborhood in order for me to count it as like somewhat relevant. And so sometimes when you have lower sale numbers, that can kind of skew data and make it look like it's really attractive. So it should be your job to let's dive a little bit deeper into that neighborhood and see what the real situation is. You got things like Woodlawn just completely, continue to rise at a really rapid rate. A lot of that could be fueled by new construction, right? So you might have some of that kind of plays into it. But what this is supposed to do is give you the idea of like, hey, there's a lot of activity going on here. Let's dive a little bit deeper, and then you guys decide on what action item. Okay. So, cool. Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right, Jason, you're the man. Thank you so much for coming every Saturday morning and giving myself and everyone here the insights we need to make the best decisions possible when we are buying our next property. So I don't think there's been another person I've had here so far that I'm more excited with than having Joe here. I owe Joe a ton of gratitude for helping me out when I was getting started. He was my first managing broker and was really the guy I went to with every single question, probably annoying question, for a long time before I had a little bit, of experience under my belt. So I'm super glad he made the trek down here from, where'd you come from? Barrington. I was going to say Algonquin or West Dundee.
Yep.
And yeah, and probably more importantly, Joe is the property manager for my dad. And that in itself is a blessing for me, because he might be one of the worst clients Joe has. And so now, so if he's watching, I'm sorry, Dad, but that is the truth, that you are not the best client. And I'm so thankful that Joe has taken over property management so that he's no longer bugging me and telling me about all his stories. And so, Joe, maybe you could just kind of give us a super high level of where you're at now, how many businesses you have, how many flips you've done, how many wholesales you've done. Just really give us the full bragging story about who you are.
And I can try.
So my name is Joe Mueller. I've been in business since about 2001. I started off as essentially a flipper. I was interested in real estate in high school. And now I can comment about my dad, who won't like this. My dad was like, "You're not doing real estate. Go to college, figure this out. You're going to do something else." And I kept coming back to valuation of property, looking at like the newspaper because there was no Zillow, and seeing like, house here for $50,000. What does it rent for? I was fascinated by like the numbers essentially, and I couldn't get away from it. So I bought my first house when I was 19. I borrowed money from a family member to do that. I bought it at the auction block and just kind of never stopped from there. So high level stuff. I have a construction company right now, a title company, which several of you in the room have utilized, including Ellie right there in the front row, Investor Title Services. Brokerage named TANIS Group Realty, which is how I met Jonathan. Well, bigger pockets actually, right? Bigger pockets, but he joined the brokerage. And then a couple different holding companies where we're buying and selling things like that. Mainly focused on single family and small multis. Done well over 100 flips. I don't even know, not to be honest. We have about 100 doors that we own right now, and then manage for some other people, including Jonathan's dad, who's a great guy, by the way. That's kind of the high level stuff. So on, events like this, I come out and kind of talk about what I do, about the title company, about helping wholesalers get started, about how to do double closes and contract assignments, and, my thoughts on flipping. And I was talking to Ray in the audience here about the Airbnb market. By the way, Jake, this is awesome. This is worth showing up for, just so you know. The data that's in that report is amazing. So thank you for that. I signed up. Thank you. Yes.
Okay, so wholesales, rentals, brokerage, title service,
Construction.
construction.
Just started that last year.
Yeah, so
That's a new venture. For us.
yeah, I called the meetup how to grow multiple streams of income. And yeah, so that's, I think, 6 separate businesses. I think that sounds super impressive, and everyone should go out and get to that point. But what's the best way to actually get started doing something? Because I know for myself, I thought about that too. And I was like, I'm going to go do a brokerage and a construction company and this and that. And all of a sudden I realized I was hitting 20% of my goals in all of those different things. And it was like, I'm going back to one bridge, quality builders, construction. Is that kind of what you found at the beginning when you got started?
Yeah, it's a tough question to answer, but I think what I realized over time, and now looking back on the 20 years I've been involved in real estate, is it comes down to like what we're doing right now. Is it's a relationship business in the end. All of this is relationship based. Getting to know people, and you commented about basically you said, I want to be in the right room with people that know more than I know so I can grow. I mean, that's a huge part of what goes on. So you have a goal, you want to do your first wholesale, you want to do your first flip, you want to buy your first multi-unit, whatever it is. I mean, meet those people, hang out with those people, talk to those people, have resources available, and I mean, you can get there. That's the reality. The construction thing, just on a side note, that came about. You had asked me a couple of years ago if I was doing any construction work for other people because he was getting business out where I'm at, and was like, "Hey, do you know anybody?" I'm like, "Hey." And then I have people that are asking me like, "Hey, do you have a roofer? Do you have a towel guy? Do you have a shower guy? Do you have this? Do you have that? Who's your cabinets? What do you use for granite?" And eventually I was like, I could probably make a little money just using the resources I built. And that's how the company came together. And now we're doing a whole ton of business. It's a whole nother side screen that I didn't expect. But really all from talking to knowing people, right? So I guess the answer to that is you're in the right room. Keep doing it.
Would you recommend getting your real estate license when you're getting started in real estate?
I do, yes. I always do. I know there's a little bit of a stigma with wholesaling. Should I get a license? Now it's a law. Do I have to? My girlfriend does it, so I don't need one. I mean, the reality is all this stuff is data-based to figure out what your next move is, just like Jason presented this morning. I mean, that type of information can drive all your decisions on a daily basis. So having access to the MLS to me is key. I use it every single day, every single deal, unless it's out of Illinois. We do some stuff out of state. I do stuff in Florida. I have a license in Florida. So that's how it works. Yes, get your license, in my opinion.
So once you get your license, you got your first deal coming, your first lead coming in as a wholesaler, and you're talking to owners. I know I've called you, I don't know, 36 times about how to talk to a different owner, what to say. What are your like biggest tips that you haven't told anyone that you can share here on negotiating with an owner and getting them, you know, because we all think it's about price, but ultimately what I've found is it's almost never about price. But so how do you unpack that with those owners?
Great question. It's always about situation, right? They've got something going on that they're calling a little white postcard that showed up in their mailbox 3 times in the last 3 months, that they're going to pick up the phone instead of calling a Remax or whoever, Greystone, to list their property. Nice, I give credit. So you need to realize, as somebody who's looking for off-market opportunities, dealing, you know, direct to seller, there's something emotional, there's something financial, there's some type of distress going on that's causing a different plan of action opposed to what the norm would be doing. So you got to respect that. You got to keep that in mind. You got to ask questions. You got to, so unpacking that answer is really what you're trying to do, is in your words. How can you build rapport with that seller in a way where they begin to build some trust with you, and they actually, you know, confide in what's going on that can help you solve their problem. It's always a problem normally. I don't remember the specifics because you asked a long question, but I would say, if I was going to say what the way I approach somebody, the way I tell the people that work with us on how to talk to sellers is transparency. I don't like the situations where a seller feels like they don't know what is happening in a wholesale transaction, which, as a licensed broker for over 20 years, and you're like, all right, well, I'm a broker, so I'm supposed to be getting them the most value that I can out of that property. That's not necessarily the case. You're there to solve a problem. And part of that may be, hey, I can give you a cash offer for this much. And in those cases, I'm going to close on the property, or I might rent it out when I'm done. I might fix it up and flip it, or hey, maybe I'll sell it to my buddy Jonathan, who really loves this area, and I'm going to make a little money doing that. Those conversations, once you explain it in a way that they go, okay, all right, I get it. Like I'm in the real estate business. You're in the tailoring business, whatever it is. Like you do that on your end, I do that on my end. Once you're transparent about everything, they seem to really understand what's going on. So I don't know if there's a big secret other than being transparent, but if there is somebody who generally won't kind of conform to the conversation or doesn't really, I'm gonna say, like those types of conversations, I mean, we move on. But, hey, I'm here to help you. Here's how I can help. These are my options right now. I had a call last week to the office for somebody local in Dundee. She said, yeah, my daughter lives in this property. It needs a lot of work. We bought it 2 years ago. We can't get it fixed. I don't know what to do. My daughter doesn't want to leave. I said, well, I can give you a cash offer. I can list it for you. Having those options available, you know, having a lender partner that can come alongside and maybe with a refinance, depending on the market, obviously, or even just offering the title services. So my day-to-day is, well, now I can fix it for you with a construction company. I can help you sell it as a broker. I can buy it from you as a cash buyer, maybe move it to another investor, or use my title company and give you a discounted rate. Just try to help any way you can. People generally respond to that, what I see.
So if we did a quick example of what that would look like, and I was calling you from a mailer, and I was like, hey, Joe, I got your yellow letter in the mail. It keeps coming, and I don't know why you keep sending me those things.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm in business of buying houses. Are you looking to sell?
I'm not really sure. I was just trying to understand why these keep coming to me.
So we pull data from these national sources. I can't really tell you why it's coming to you, but there must be something with your property. Maybe you paid it off. Maybe you inherited it from a family member. Generally, we like to buy houses from people like that because it's not a house that they're living in. So I'm looking for stuff like that to buy for my business. That's something I can help you with.
Yeah, my mom just passed away, and I've just been holding on to it. I don't really know what to do with it. There's a bunch of stuff in there, and it's just been dragging on forever.
Have you thought about selling it?
I've thought about it.
What do you think you would sell it for?
I don't really know. It's worth quite a bit.
Is it? Okay. Well, how about this? Why don't we set up a time where I can come by, maybe we can get together and I can go over some of the options that we can help you with.
I'd love that.
How about tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that's I think one of the most important things is speed to getting to them. So I'm always curious, will you write offers before you go see the property, or will you always go meet them face to face before you give them some numbers?
I will generally, we're trying to obtain a number before visiting the property that kind of will set the stage on, is this like, I'll be there in 10 minutes or I'll see you next week. If we can't obtain, yes, I want to get in front of it. I want to see the property before we're officially signing something. I don't typically send blind offers. That's how I do.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
know that's different depending on how your business is run.
And as far as marketing goes for finding properties, what did you start with? And then what are you doing now?
Postcards. I mean, we have Google AdWords running, we've got Facebook campaigns running, we've got a website, we're using Investor Carrot for that. We've done cold calling, we've done texting. In the end, I ended up going back to direct mail because it's where they're reaching out to you. You're not necessarily reaching out to them.
Yeah.
And what I've experienced is it just seems to work better for my business. I'm not saying any of them are right or wrong, but that works for me. That's works for me.
Yeah. Seems like new things pop up every, year, 2, 3 years. And then what I found for the people who are continually successful is direct mail.
Right.
Yeah. Is there,
And what's cool about it too is if you keep an eye on your numbers, right? You can, I'm gonna send out we use postcards, 5,000 postcards. You might get 32 phone calls in the month of May as a result. And out of those, maybe 5 actual real seller conversations and maybe 1 contract, a little bit number, right? Oh man, I need to do more than 1 contract. I need to do 2 or 3. Okay, let's go do 10,000. Let's do 15,000. You can scale up based on the response. Obviously, it's never always the same. But you have a general idea, and that's really what I love about the direct mail aspect is you can ebb and flow as you want.
are you putting anything on your mail special? Like what would be an example of what your mailer looks like?
Very simple stuff. Often it says something like, we just bought a house in your neighborhood, looking for another one. I'm an investor. I'm a licensed broker. We put the brokerage information. We'll put the home buying company information, depending on, there's a little variation of that. Better Business Bureau logo. We can join that. Now we use QR codes, so we can send them right to the website and phone number. Very simple.
And so just backing up really quick. So for direct mail, for direct mail, you are buying a list to start with of someone who's in some type of distress, be it vacant, death, divorce. Where do you usually get your list from?
I've got a little small guy that's running. He's some guy out of Colorado who's been shipping me lists for the last couple of months. He's doing a really good job. I'm not sure where he pulls from. But I've done probates. I've done list source. Everybody starts with that. I use PropStream to manage all of our data right now. I really like using PropStream just to filter and check everything out. And it does kind of have like a Zillow back end to it. So you could, if you're not licensed, you can get some valuation done off of it. I just like how it kind of manages all the data. But then you can generate this off that. You could do like a map search and pull, high equity, and it'll show you all the properties in Schomburg that are high equity.
Yeah. So you pull your list,
Mm-hmm.
you either handwrite all your mailers yourself or you hire a mailing company. If you were getting going, you could do something to save money, right? And then you mail people letters and then they call you saying exactly what I did. Hey,
Yes.
I got your mail. Why'd you call? Or why'd you send this to me?
Answer the phone. That's key. That's probably the number one failure of newer people in the business when they're doing seller direct is they see the line ringing on their Google Voice or whatever phone system they've set up, and they're like, they don't know what to say. You got to strike while the iron's hot. So if somebody's calling, pick up the phone. Even if it's an unpleasant conversation, which half of them are going to be like, don't ever send me this postcard again, yelling at you a little more meanly than I'm saying it. But that's how the business. So just answer the phone for sure. And handwriting. I know some wholesalers that a lot of who works at my brokerage is like wholesale based, investor based, kind of what Jason said with Greystone, kind of like what you're doing. People that are interested in flipping and wholesaling, investing in real estate. So some of them are handwriting their letters. Some of them are doing mass mailers through, yellowletters.com, stuff like that. I generally use PropStream, just keeps it simple, but I'm not a PropStream salesman. I just like simple.
Okay.
Does that answer?
Yeah.
Answer that question?
So you've been doing it for 20 years, more or less. I feel like you may have had some times, closer to when you were getting started that felt like you didn't want to keep doing this. What made you persist to keep doing it? And was there any, things that you did to keep your mind right and keep you moving in the right direction?
I mean, the crash was tough. I think the crash was tough on everyone. It was, unless you're a, majoring in, a professional economist or work for some major hedge fund, and even they didn't know, like, there was no way to predict what was exactly going to happen and what that was going to look like a year down the road. So that was definitely an interesting learning experience for me.
Where were you at with did you have the brokerage then? Did you?
Mainly just the brokerage, and I was acting as an investor and as a broker at that point. I didn't have all the other side businesses, but I was still buying off market and on market. It was just one of those situations where the world stopped and you didn't know what to expect. I was talking to Ray in the audience here about it, but like the lending shut down. So right now, there's hard money lenders, and I'm not plugging anybody, but there's Renovo, Lima One, and RCN. All these people are out there, they're throwing money in your face, they're sending you emails, and that all dried up. So for an active investor, when you're like making your living off of this, other than the rental income type thing, which that also was a problem because people stopped, being employed a lot. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't make moves. And then everyone was scared of the market. So nobody wanted to put money back into real estate. It took a while for that to come around. So at that point, I just kind of grinded out on, I had a 31 unit, 2 different apartment buildings, about 31 units and a couple of single families at that point. Worked through that. Ironically, was with a lender, commercial lender for those 2 apartment buildings. Harris Bank got bought by BMO, which is now BMO you see everywhere, right? Canadian company. BMO is like, hey, we're not looking to do business with small time investors like you. We want like 100+ units or more. So you've got 24 months. We're going to call your loans due. Like, oh, that's perfect because no one is lending money right now. So I sold 1, or sold 2 of the buildings. I had a third. I apologize. I had a third. I ended up refinancing with a small commercial bank out of like Sugar Grove. Never been to Sugar Grove, but they lend me money. Stuff like that. You gotta rely on resources, talk to everybody, network. That's how I ended up at the bank in Sugar Grove, which I still do business with today. Because I was talking to people like, hey, here's my situation. I'm a credit-worthy borrower and I have money and I can make this work, but this bank no longer wants to work with me and no one's lending. What do I do? So again, relying on other people, networking, that was huge for me.
Did you have any partners in the beginning? I know you have Dan Clark now, but because I found that I didn't have many partners, and then the more I found partners, the easier it was to actually grow and scale.
Well, I was a lone wolf for a long time. That's the word I use. I thought I'm going to learn as much as I can and do as much as I can. Hold on myself. I'm not going to tell anybody. That is way wrong attitude. Way wrong. Some point during the crash, again, I'm talking with these guys who've been in it longer than I have. They're offering the world to me to try to help. Like, yeah, call my banker over here. He owns this branch. I'm like, owns? You actually own a bank?
That's what I thought the first time I heard that.
Like, people helping me out that didn't have to. And then I realized very quickly, like, yeah, it's all about working together with people and sharing the knowledge that they share with you, and partnering is huge. I do that all the time now. A lot of the brokers that work with us, one of them's in the room, Pete. Pete's got a couple deals in the pipe. Hey, there you go. Pete needs help. I'm there to help him. We're working on a few that are working out right now, but that's kind of what my mentality changed to, is more like, profiting through sharing with other people. Did that answer it?
Yeah. And I think differently from a lot of people, you started in real estate. I think for me and probably most of the people in the room, all I knew was get a W-2 job and feel like I was locked into that forever. And then I feel like I jumped into a new portal when I found out about real estate, because it's just something you don't learn about in school or anywhere like that. And for me, money is what drove me, right? I thought if I got tons of money, people will respect me, and all of these things from carried on all these traumatic events from childhood. Like, I'm going to show all these guys who are bullying me that if I get money, I'm going to be cool all of a sudden. And so I think for me, I had a scarcity mindset, kind of like I feel like maybe you did at the very beginning. And does it take an event like the crash to get into an abundance mindset? Or is there a way that people can shift from scarcity to abundance without having to go through a crash to really get to the other side? And I feel like I'm there now, and I feel like I've never been happier now that I'm in that mindset of abundance and helping everyone out. How can someone make that transition from scarcity to abundance sooner without going through trauma?
It's a great question. I felt like for me, it happened over time. You had a certain, and it's probably different based on who you are and what your childhood was like, what your life is like, probably a million different ways to answer that. I don't know. So I always felt like if I was going to share my time with somebody that we needed to, it always had to be, apologize in advance, always had to be reciprocated in some way. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to meet for this. Okay, what do I get? I no longer feel that way. I don't know what transition, but the crash was very humbling for me because, I thought thought I was doing pretty good being, 30 years old and had my shit figured out, pardon my language, and had multi-units and my friends were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, I'm just flipping out. It's awesome. Going on vacation soon, maybe. I worked like 18 hours a day. That definitely puts me back in your place and made me really look at everything deeply. So I don't know if I'm the right guy to answer that question, honestly. Maybe post-crash investors can tell you that's probably what changed my life.
Yeah, I think for me, everything kind of boils back down to awareness. And once I became more self-aware of who I was, and then the more I was around other people who were living in abundance, all of a sudden I was like, wow, these guys are doing way better than I am. And if I do what they do, then I'm going to live that, kind of fully abundant life. And so for me, that self-reflection, understanding who I was and getting around more and more people, like people in this group, like Jason, like Ellie, like you, like me, who are willing to help, anyone in the room. One of my mottos is I'm always available. I won't always get back to you immediately, but I will always respond eventually. And that's just been, a life changer for me. I think being in the entrepreneurial space in real estate, we all have this drive to achieve. And I actually saw like an Instagram post from Strategic Coach, which is the group I'm in, about creating either a growth entrepreneur or a lifestyle entrepreneur. Can you talk maybe about how maybe that shifted for you? Or are you still a growth entrepreneur working 18 hours a day? Or have you shifted into more a lifestyle entrepreneur now that you have a child playing baseball who's hopefully winning his games today?
He is winning. Yeah, I would like to consider myself a lifestyle entrepreneur. The reality is I like to grind. I get up early, I work out, I go to the office, I try to get shit done every day and accomplish something. Do I go off the grid? Absolutely. I go in Florida for a month at the end of July. Yes. But the reality is I still try to build something, accomplish something. Now I have kids, I'm trying to make something better for their life. Like if I was a single dude, yeah, I'd probably be like living on an island, so that'd be good. But when you have responsibilities and I'm trying to create a legacy at this point, fairly certain my 12-year-old daughter's going to take over the brokerage. I'm looking at them. My son, he wants to be a baseball star, and probably not, but he could say go to college for real estate. I don't know. Point is, yes, I'm still probably in that growth movement. Maybe.
Is there a chance that when you start doing less, that you actually grow faster?
Yeah, for sure. Because you can focus on what really matters and how to turn whatever's helping that growth and how to do that exponentially, right?
For you, what are the things that you need to do less of and start doing more of?
I now step back a lot more. I hire for everything. I used to try to do everything. That's a big mindset change for me in the last probably 5 years. And Dan helped me do that. Dan Clark, who brought his name, with partners on the investment title services. Getting him involved in that end of the business was the first time I had any type of partner in real estate of any kind, other than maybe doing like a joint venture on a flip or co-wholesale or something like that. And seeing like, hey, it's actually better if I just let him do it. I'll stay in the background and be like, yeah, let's change this. Oh, that price is wrong. Or what's the big problem we got to do today? Okay, I'll help with that. But that's what I did at a construction company. That's working really well. I hired a guy right out of the gate. We have different staff now. So having people help you get there is huge. That was a big change for me. So encourage people to consider that as they grow and build, get help, whether it's a VA to help you run your marketing campaign or, your Airbnb business, short-term, long-term rental, whatever you're doing.
Yeah, one of my favorite books is Who, Not How, and finding more who's to plug into your system. VAs are probably, the thing that helped me the most getting going. And I think oftentimes it's kind of like a scrutinized thing to be like, oh, you're paying someone $5 an hour in the Philippines to do this, and this. But what I found is, one, you're actually creating a job for someone who didn't have one before. And more importantly, they're getting more money than they could ever before.
Sure.
What do you guys use VAs for in your business? Do you use any?
Yeah, we do. So we have 2 VAs right now. One of them is kind of like I'm going to say my marketing assistant. So he's kind of refining the list. He's pulling lists. He's sorting. He's dealing with return mail. So any return piece of mail I get, I'm scanning in, and he's putting it in a Dropbox, and he's taking those and moving them and putting them to a separate list. We call that the cold list. You got to skip those people behind it. I'm sure everyone's heard that before, but that's super important. And then so he's generally kind of I just say my assistant. He's taking direction from me. He's not on a specific schedule. He's not doing 40 or 20 hours a week. He's getting a flat rate weekly just to do what tasks I assign to him routinely. And then we have one that's full-time VA that's answering the phone, following up with sellers, actually negotiating sometimes. He gets a bonus if he can get a contract signed, which we have done before. So, for him to get an extra $250, which normally he's getting, like you said, $650 an hour, is huge. So he's really ready to help out with that. And he's every day, 5 days a week.
Yeah, I would say if you're in the room and you don't have a VA, there's no doubt you should have one, even if you're, don't even know what you're doing. There's just so many tasks that are on your plate that if you offload them, you can focus more on what you need to. There was a new book too, the same guy, the same author, Dan Sullivan, that wrote Who Not How, that wrote 10X is easier than 2X. And the point of that book is basically there's 20%, the 80-20 rule, right? There's 20% of your results, or 80% of your work is
80% of your results from 20% of your work.
Yes, bingo. And so basically it's like, how do you offload that 20%, whether it's in your work or just your life? Even one of my VAs, that I love to death, Girly, I had her look up salsa dancing lessons for me and my girlfriend Princess, and boom, it was done in one day. And I'd been trying to do it for 8 weeks. And so, little tiny things I've just learned the more I can take off my plate. I hired cleaners to come to my house. I have someone mows the lawn, and these aren't things that I feel like, I can afford them, of course, but more importantly, I'm helping someone else do something, put food on their table. And the more I've been able to get into the elevated mindset of helping other people with jobs, the more I've been able to grow myself. If there was one piece of advice that you would give to someone getting going to help them grow the quickest, what would it be?
We hit on it earlier, but surround yourself with the right people. That is the number one piece of advice. YouTube is great. Reading is great. I like the audio books, but educating yourself is a huge component of this, but the nitty gritty, you can't get shit done without having the right people in your network that you can rely on, or at least bounce some ideas off of, and they can help you grow way faster than doing it alone. Take it from someone who did it all alone, and it was a pain in the ass. Like, I thought I was awesome doing 2 or 3 flips a year. Now I can do 30, and I wouldn't be here without relying on the people, everybody on how to make this work.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is rock stars know rock stars. And I feel like, anyone in a room who's doing a decent amount of deals knows 10 people who are going to be open and willing to help you do your next deal, whether it's a lender, an attorney, an insurance agent, a contractor, a broker. And so,
Absolutely,
everyone in the room should make sure they come up and talk to Joe, because he probably knows, 10 dozen people that he can refer you, whether it's in the city or the suburbs. I'm going to wrap it up there. What's the best way for everyone to get a hold of you? If you have a closing for Investors Title Services, if you need a brokerage, and you're in the northwest suburbs, if you need construction, how can everyone get a hold of you, and what's the best way for them to contact you?
I mean, probably via email. I mean, we have websites and all that, but email is what I kind of run my day-to-day off of routinely. I can give that out if you want. That's my first initial and last name, J Mueller, which is M as in Mary, Ueller, letter J, Mueller, at TANIS Group, which is TANIS Group LLC.com.
All right. And once again, I was Jonathan Clem with Quality Builders. We just launched a new website. So if you go visit our website, I would love some feedback on it. I'm super excited about it. We're qualitybuilders.com. And we're on all social channels. Is TANIS on some of the social channels
and all that stuff? Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta get the VA for that too.
Yeah, RVA is
I'm doing the
amazing. Yeah, and so the last thing I always close with is just reminding everyone to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Walking up to someone you don't know is probably one of the best skills you can develop. So all of you who don't know Joe, I encourage you to walk up and talk to him today, and talk to anyone else in the room that you don't know, because hopefully everyone in the room is more than willing to help everyone, just like Joe and I are.
Sure.
All right, Joe. Thank you again for coming. I really appreciate it.
You got questions coming on?
Oh yeah. Usually we ask questions now too. So I missed that part. Yeah. Who has any questions?
How do what?
How did you scale?
How did I scale up with house buying, or?
Starting out and growing bigger, being more efficient, going from 3 flips to 30 flips later.
I mean, well, you gotta have the dream, first of all, right? You gotta want it, you gotta have the goals. And, being by yourself, or like I was a solo entrepreneur, we'll call it. And what I realized very quickly was you can't get access to, private lending is a great example. Some of the private lenders I use today, typically how we close on our acquisitions now is other people's money, right? Is some of them have come from other investors that have 300, 400, 500 houses, for example. And say, yeah, go ahead and call this guy. Like, I don't use him that much, but he's got plenty of money. So again, I'll rely on what I said a few times, which was networking, shaking hands with the right people, asking questions. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Put yourself in the center of the room, even if you have very little or no experience. Because what I found is good people that know what they're doing are always willing to help. It's the guys and gals out there that are kind of more standoffish, which I was that guy. And really probably didn't have it, I didn't have enough going on to feel comfortable in my own skin to tell you how to do it. So scaling to me, I mean, once I felt comfortable that I had the right network and the funds available, I mean, to me, it was not that hard, but based on, using off-market marketing, for example. I mean, right now we'll send out 20,000 mailers in a month. And if we need to dial it in because, hey, 4th of July is coming up and we're going to be busy and Dan's going to Ireland for a month or whatever because he was gone for a while, like, yeah, we turned it on. I like that ability to do that, but having the knowledge of that data on what that type of marketing can produce as far as scaling is really a huge part of it. Having the people that help you do that, as far as maybe a disposition manager, if you're going to be in the wholesale business, it's hard to do it all by yourself and not work 12 or 16 hours a day. So rely on other people, build a small network, get some VAs, whether it's your own money or other people's, have some available. You'd be surprised how quickly an opportunity can show up in your lap with a single phone call. You're like, man, I really need X number of $100,000 like tomorrow. Oh, you're losing it to taxes on Monday. Okay. Who do I know that's got 200,000? You need to have some of those. You need to have that floating around in your brain now. My answer.
Yeah, I'll add systems and processes go a really long way when you're trying to systematize or scale your business. And, whatever the system or process is, if you have it mapped out and who's doing what, that's going to really kind of allow you to grow and scale, and then plug yourself into different seats, right? I think if you have some type of org chart in what you're doing, then you can start to see what you need. So you might have 10 seats and you're in all of them, but then you can slowly pick what seat you need to find a who for, and then really focus on that.
Yeah, I used to think I was that guy. We'll call that the integrator.
Yeah,
right?
integrator.
From Traction. And I realized as being the integrator, I'm not the integrator. I'm the visionary. which is why I'm like, let's start this business. Let's do this. Let's try that. But having that as part of your business is huge. Having that foundation of, let's say, attraction to the book traction to base, your business off of, or having that work chart written down in front of you is huge. Whether it's you are going to be in all the seats, but get ready to start filling. Yeah, great point. The system is huge.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
You mentioned, navigating the weight sort of like situation being really big for you in your career. I guess like what sort of lessons did you learn from that process that you think would be relevant for someone who's maybe starting their investing career in a very similar, not similar background, not similar, but in terms of just like larger environments, similar environment. Like,
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to me, that's an easy one to answer. I mean, you gotta be prepared to be fluid, have multiple options. I call it multiple exit. Everybody calls it multiple exit strategy. Every property we buy, everything we close on has got more than one way we can make money on it. Always. So maybe it starts with, well, I know I can wholesale that property for $7,500. Well, if that doesn't work, I know we can close on it. We can clean out the garbage, and we can throw it on the MLS. We can wholesale it, and maybe we'll make $10,000 or whatever the number is. And then plan C is going to be, well, that's a great rental area. How about we close on it, fix it up, and then we can rent it off for $1,800 a month. But having multiple exits is huge. Airbnb being a strategy as well. I think that's putting every one of those options in front of each opportunity that presents itself is going to help you find a path to what is going to work out best to what you like doing, what generates the most income for you. But that whole 08 situation, like I was tunnel visioning on, this is what I'm doing. This is what I do. The reality is I wasn't seeing the big picture. So I would say, look at all those options every time you have an opportunity, and that will help you succeed because you're always going to have something else you can do with the property. There's no one way to make it all work. Each house, each building, each piece of land, whatever it is, generally there's multiple ways, whether it's taking it down as a subject to as opposed to a cash sale. Like there's ways to skin it to make it work. So have some knowledge of a lot of those options, and then have a network of people that can help you with it if you don't know how to get it done that way. You can rely on them.
So, could you give some advice on a person who's just getting in and it tends to, whatever way or category, because there's multiple categories in real estate that you can go in. But speaking on development or fix and flip rehab, starting in a community where the properties are very low and it's attainable for that new person, no matter the background they come from as far as finance, wants to do it on their own, or, partner with investors, but having access to those properties that are very low and attainable to rehab and get the equity out of, but it's like low equity in the end compared to seasoned experienced investors, because they're more, their portfolio is like dealing with higher equities and stuff like that. But what do you recommend? Like, is that still worth going to investors and throwing up those opportunities?
Yes. And we say investors, like a private money lender or somebody who's willing to put the money up and partner with you or something. There's guys and gals out there that have $50,000 with guys out there that have $50 million. They're all in a different point of their life, and their businesses are all going to be different compared to this, we'll say this particular neighborhood versus wherever, maybe they're buying in California. I don't know. But absolutely, because keep telling people what you do. I say that to everybody all the time. You're just getting started. Exactly. You're always going to tell them what you're doing. Because you'd be surprised how quickly somebody's overhearing your conversation, maybe doesn't want to say something in front of the group of the three of your friends, but pulls you aside or calls you the next day and says, my dad really needs help like putting money into something and he wants to do real estate, for example. That could be a private money lender, that could be a partner. I would just keep focusing on something so you know it as well as it sounds like you have like a niche area that you're focusing on, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also was interested in development, like from ground up.
Sure.
Then it's like a two-part question is like, for me, as being as new as I am, having an ideal in the target area I'm looking in, like kind of like trying to do my own gentrification of my own community. Because in South Shore, really over east, they're doing gentrification heavy. But the lands and lots that's open in my community, which is West Pullman, they have low rates as far as lots of land, but I don't know, it's just like being started, starting off, it's like, I kind of want to do a lot of things, but still trying to start with something.
Find some focus.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, you said you're an electrician's apprentice, right?
yeah.
So you've got a network right there of all the contractors you could ever need, because you should be walking in and out of houses or buildings every day with these guys, right? Start talking to them, build up your network of contractors. You're gonna run into one of them that says, oh yeah, I know a guy that does that. And I would probably try to connect with him. If I could go back in time, like 20 years, I would latch on to somebody doing exactly it is that I wanted to do, and I would work for free. I would follow them around 24. I'd be a personal assist. I'll do it with them. Drive them around. I don't care. Because that's all those little nuggets that just fall out every day that they take for granted. Like, oh yeah, this is what we do. Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Like when you're first getting into it, you're like, wow, it's the best thing I've ever heard. That's going to definitely expedite that process and help you get there faster. And generally kind of put you on one point of focus, because that's what they're generally, these business people that are in real estate are going to be focused on one thing generally. Not that we all can't move and shake, but that'll help maybe focus your, where you want to be someday in that narrative.
Yeah, I'd get hyper focused. That's what I would do. Building too many bridges at once leaves you stuck on the island with no built bridges.
Good.
Any other questions? All right. Well, again, everyone get comfortable being uncomfortable and come talk to Joe or Jason or myself. Thank you again for coming.
Thanks for the opportunity, guys. Thank you.